evening. We are live for tonight's session, Selling on LinkedIn. I hope you are all well. I am here. Please let me know in the chat. We have had some glitches with the chat feed coming up, but one of our moderators will keep you engaged in the chat. And any questions, put them in there. And feel free to find me on LinkedIn or like, follow, all of the other different places. That would be awesome. You will need a notepad and pen tonight, so please go get them now. And you've got about 2-3 minutes. We'll just let everything get settled down, make sure the tech works, and then we'll get on with it. So do let us know where you're joining from tonight, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or wherever it is we are tonight. Over 1,100 people registered, and you're all watching on various different channels, and some of you watching on the replay. So we're going to start in 1 more minute, but before I get into the meat of it, I want to just ask you a couple of questions. 1, how long have you been on LinkedIn? Number 2, how much success have you had from LinkedIn? Because if you're frustrated with the way that you've been using LinkedIn, perhaps it's been hit and miss, perhaps you've thought about it and gone, it's not worth it. Perhaps you're somebody who's never used LinkedIn. We're going to walk through. We're not going to go into masses of detail and bog you down in the detail. We're going to give you an overview of a different way of thinking about using LinkedIn tonight that will give you some ideas of a way that you can build something that's not pushy, that's not aggressive, and doesn't get you banned. So this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be selling on LinkedIn. If you've never been to any of our stuff before, Maverick, we founded the business in 2014, and over 1,000 businesses are online on our courses and free events and all that stuff every single month. It's probably way more than that now. So if you enjoy what you get from us, not everybody's going to buy, but if you are serious about growing your business and you're serious about getting sales through the door, we've got courses that can help. And so check us out on our website. Join some of our programs, and we have a really good bunch of good team, and they're based in London, the US, and Plymouth. So go find a member of our team and say, hey, I want to know more about LinkedIn, and they'll jump on a call with you and give you some tips and hints and tell you about how we can help. Okay, so what I want to ask you is, what is your goal on LinkedIn? Because I think everybody gets this wrong. Your goal on LinkedIn is not to make sales. You will struggle to make sales on LinkedIn. And the reason we title this webinar this way is because everybody goes, I want to sell on LinkedIn. I want to sell on LinkedIn. And when they try and do that, it fails. And it fails because their strategy is wrong. So your goal on LinkedIn is to get more meetings, more of those first time meetings with prospects. All of your effort, everything that you're doing on LinkedIn is about that. Whether that's a meeting next week, or seeding an opportunity for a meeting next month or the next quarter. That's what you're trying to do on LinkedIn. And so when you approach it and think, oh, I've got to sell, that very mindset and approach on LinkedIn is probably the biggest reason why it's not working for you. So I want to ask you, are you priming or are you pitching on LinkedIn? So people are going, what's priming? Well, we'll come to that in a minute. Let's first look at pitching. Anybody seen these things? These really lovely messages that we all get. And I bet you, go look in your own LinkedIn right now. Get the LinkedIn app open, wherever my phone is. I put it down somewhere. Get the LinkedIn app open and have a look. How many of the messages in there are people going, we're amazing. We've worked with Amazon and Dell and all these amazing companies, and you should talk to me. How many of those messages are like that? Occasionally you get the weird ones like, hi, Dean. But most of them are these really long-winded, we're amazing, as one of my colleagues in London says, the me. Yeah? Forget them. They don't work. Go look in your inbox. How many times do you reply to them? What you're doing is just pitching people and playing a numbers game. What you really need to be focused on is priming. And priming is where you educate the prospect about your value. It's all well and good you posting on LinkedIn about how many awards you've won and how amazing it is. But does that do anything to show the prospect why they need you? What challenges and frustrations do they need to have to see the value in your product or service? And so one of the key benefits of priming is literally that you can show people over time the difference you can make. The second benefit of priming is that it warms prospects up. Now, LinkedIn isn't the answer to everything. It isn't the golden chalice. Some people will say that it's the only way. It's part of the way. And so what we can do with LinkedIn is we can warm our prospects. We can build relationships. And it may well be that ends up as an email conversation. It may end up as a call. It may end up a video meet. But it's warming the prospect up for that next interaction where you're going to talk shop. And for those in the US watching, shop meaning you're going to talk business. So it's warming up the prospect. It's educating them about your value. It's building a general familiarity about you, who you are, what you're about, and building a level of trust. One of the things people miss about social media, and I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but when you're on social media, just seeing people on a regular basis builds trust. Just showing up and being in somebody's feed, engaging and building that relationship builds trust. So these are keys to really priming a prospect, prepping them for when you really want to talk business, building those relationships. It's exactly what you do in any other scenario in person, but for some reason on LinkedIn, we lose our heads, do these weird long-winded sales pitches, hoping it's going to actually get a result. The final thing and the final reason why priming is important, I could give you a list, but these are the key ones, is it reduces the burn and increases the response. What do I mean by the burn? If you send a lot of messages, if you send a lot of sales pitches cold, you lose people. People say, I'm not interested. People remove you on LinkedIn. People block you on LinkedIn. So you burn people if you pitch hard and pitch aggressively. You burn people, you lose people. Now, I see people doing this on email. The danger of doing this, particularly in the European geography or the European jurisdictions, is GDPR. If you send a generic pitch to a decision maker and they tell you not to contact them again, that relationship is over. And so one lazy copy and paste email or one lazy copy and paste DM can alienate you from that prospect forever. So really need to bear that in mind, that whilst some of the strategies, I'm going to show you one that's typical on LinkedIn. I'll show you one. Whilst these strategies seem like they're efficient and they're attractive because of the numbers involved, actually what happens is you lose more than you gain, but the gain can feel pretty good. The other thing is if you too aggressively pitch and try and sell on LinkedIn, you may get your profile restricted. Now, if you repeatedly do that, you will find yourself with a ban. Now, that may mean you lose your LinkedIn account, but more and more I've met people and individuals, salespeople who've been very good salespeople. They've hit their numbers, but they've hit their numbers by playing the numbers. And so what's happened is they end up losing their account on LinkedIn permanently. And I've met a couple of people who've had a permanent ban. Imagine in this day and age, in the 21st century, having a permanent ban from LinkedIn. A platform that is put 5 million new users in September onto the platform. Imagine having a permanent lifetime ban. Now you could say to yourself, oh, well, I can get another LinkedIn account. The only way to get a new, after you get a permanent ban, the only way to get a new LinkedIn account is to use somebody else's identity. Imagine that for the rest of your career, having to pretend to be somebody else on LinkedIn. Nuts. And I know a few people who've had to do that because they need LinkedIn for sales. It's part of the company's the role of a salesperson in the modern era to use LinkedIn. Imagine what that does. So, and employers, by the way, if you're encouraging your salespeople to do that, think of the risks of fulfilling their role and the potential consequences if they lose their account on their future career. I know of one company that currently is in an employment tribunal over the fact that they've permanently been banned from LinkedIn and cannot get it back, and at their employer's instructions to hard pitch. Now, who knows where it goes, but you don't want that kind of hassle. And these are weird quirks that are being thrown up on LinkedIn. Anyway, so pitching has consequences is what I'm trying to say. But, and I'll walk you through this diagram in a minute. Pitching does get easy wins. The problem is it doesn't help you in the long term. You can, and I'll say this, and LinkedIn, don't get grumpy with me for saying it. If you go out and pitch 1,000 people with the same template message, you'll get a result. You will get a result. But more people will remove you, block you, or say no thanks than will say yes. But sometimes, let's say for an example, this is a diagram I stole off a lead generation agency's website, and I've covered up some of the stuff because I don't want to kind of name and shame or anything like that. This is their process. 1,000 prospects they're going to target every month, 1,000 prospects. And of that, 14% will respond, engage with you. Of that, of the 1,000, 38, just 38 will actually seriously engage. 29 will be pitched, 12 will get a proposal, and 4 will buy. That's their stats. Yep. So of 1,000, 4 become customers. Now, if those 4 people are spending £15,000, you've just made £60,000 on autopilot. Sounds fantastic. Try and do it next month, and the month after, and the month after, and the month after, and the month after. This process does work, but the success rate, according to a rival in one sense to what we do, is 0.4%. 0.4%. Now, if I was interviewing a salesperson, if I was interviewing you perhaps, you'd probably turn around and I said to you, what was your sales success rate? And you said to me 0.4%, I'd be like, thanks for coming in. We'll let you know in a few weeks. Thanks so much. But I wouldn't be interested. But because of the allure of there doesn't seem to be an impact, there doesn't seem to be a consequence, I will live with the fact that I got 4 from 1,000 people because it made me £60,000. But in reality, what we've done is we've eliminated more people due to annoyance than we've actually sold. We've damaged more people, we've annoyed more people, got more people grumpy than we've actually sold. And so when we think about this, it just doesn't work. It doesn't scale. And there's no skill in it. And you might think that's a brilliant, I had no skill. Well, no skill has its consequences. Yeah. If you use an easy, quick and efficient process, there's got to be some give in it somewhere. And I would challenge whether you think this is efficient. Is it efficient that you don't have to send 1,000 messages to people or 1,000 connection requests or whatever it is? Is that efficient? Yes. Is it efficient by the result? No. Do we think, if we look at this, 1,000 to 4, do we think somewhere between here and here, there is an improvement that should be made? Do we think between here and here, there is a better version with a better ROI? Of course there is. Of course there is. We'd be foolish to say that was a good outcome, but we live with this outcome because it's easy, it's convenient, except it gets harder and harder, and then you have to growth hack a new tactic and find a new secret and a new thing and you want something that works, sustains and can scale. And so what we're saying here, and what I'm going to show you tonight, is a method of going, okay, let's improve this number down here by improving this process here. So we're not having to go for 1,000 to get 4. Could we bring that number down and still get 4, or could we do that number and get more here? That's what we're trying to do. Selling on LinkedIn, this whole session is about getting you to think about, is there a better way of doing this that gets a better result, that doesn't harm your long-term revenue, it doesn't harm your prospects, it doesn't alienate you from your prospects. So if you are pitching, if you're using a pitching process, here's one way to tell. Are you reaching your weekly connection limit on a regular basis to make sales and get opportunities? If you're worried about the 100 connection limit, your sales activity on LinkedIn needs some work. And I'm going to walk you through and explain our process and explain how it works. And obviously some of you tonight will go, that's brilliant, and go do it. And some of you go, I want some more help understanding how I can make this work. And we'll help you with that too. So what you've got to understand is, as you're doing this, and the font's dropped on this a little bit, so apologies, is that as everyone's trying to find clients, everybody, your competitors, you are everybody. What you've got to understand, and this is important for LinkedIn, LinkedIn is not just about going on there and hitting people up. If that's what you think, you are going to suck at LinkedIn. It's about understanding that of your market, of your total addressable market, only a fraction of people are actually looking for what you've got to offer right now. A fraction of people, 3%. And actually 7% are considering it. So really what you think about, if you go onto LinkedIn and find all the managing directors or all the decision makers that you want, just 10% of them are actually in the market right now. And so when we think about it, there's loads of variables playing on that 10%. So there's some people who are not logged into LinkedIn. There's some people who are not active that day. There's some people who don't like your pitch. There's some people who, whatever. There's tons of different reasons why these people should say no. But there's a whole ton of people, 90% of people are not in the market for you yet. So when you think about your pipeline, your future revenue, all you're doing by doing the pitching, the hard pitching, is trying to find the people who are in the market right now and will respond to a generic message or respond to a me sales pitch. You're trying to find 10%, and of that 10%, you're trying to do that. You're trying to get them. Really smart people will nurture the 3 and 7% once they find them. But there's a ton of people that you're just not touching. Ton of people you're not touching. And so this process, what happens is everybody focuses up here. And so what happens is that it becomes about finding the needle in the haystack, finding the 3% who are looking right now. And then if you look at the messages, look at your messages, the sales pitches you've got on your LinkedIn, most of them are that very thing. People saying, hey, do you need this? We do this. Do you need this? All looking for the 3% who are looking right now. So this process I'm going to show you with priming is about catering to the whole marketplace, even the people who don't know they need you yet. The people who might have the problem and don't see it. The people who are looking at it but at an early stage, because it's important that they know you now so that they align themselves and realize that you can make a difference for their business. Your product, your service is what they need. And you get the chance to educate them with this process. You get the chance to be there first. You get the chance to command their respect. You get the chance to build the relationships. So if you're priming your prospects, if you're priming people on LinkedIn, you don't need more than the weekly connection limit. For those of you who are not familiar, earlier this year, LinkedIn brought in a 100 connection limit. And so now you can only connect with 100 people. And so if you're going very aggressively, the typical connection rate, by the way, on LinkedIn is about 15% if you do it cold. With priming, it's over 50%. So cold connection, 15%. Warm connection or primed connection, 50%. So remember this chart I showed you? about improving that process from here to here? Well, here, 14% of the 1,000. So on LinkedIn, 1,000 people send connection requests. It would take you about 2.5 months to do that. And 14% would accept, or 14% would engage. So if we think about that in LinkedIn terms, that's about right. If you go cold on people, 15% will accept, so you got 150. But if we prime those prospects, that goes up to over 50%. So instead of 1,000, we've now got 500 here. So instead of 14%, we've got 500. See the difference? So we're improving the process as we go. So you don't need 1,000 to get 4 sales. You just need to be nurturing and developing them the right way. So this 100 connection limit that LinkedIn brought in to stop the spamming and hitting people up and all that stuff, the 100 connection limit they brought in does not affect this sales strategy, because this is something that works for the long term. It's not based on an efficiency of process, it's based on an efficiency of outcome. In other words, if you want more sales with the other process, the inefficient process, the 0.4% success rate, you have to keep increasing the numbers at the top. With this process, if you put 1,000 people through, you've probably got 6 months worth of sales. It's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of working. And don't get me wrong, this is not an easy shift to make, because the biggest shift is actually in your head. It's nothing to do with the technology. It's about your attitude and your mindset towards selling and selling through LinkedIn. This is especially difficult for people who've been cold calling, because they're used to having to hunt and chase people down. And it's a different vibe and a different feeling when you're trying to sell this on LinkedIn and do this through LinkedIn. So what is priming? What is priming? Let's have a look at it. So there's 2 elements to priming. Number 1 is using content and leveraging organic content to get your message and brand in front of the prospects. That's the first element. And then it's not just that, it's shifting that content from "look how amazing we are" content to focusing on the client's pain points from their perspective, and really just showing people how you can make a difference. You know, think about it like this. If a customer decides to buy from you, if a customer decides to commit a budget to you and say, I'm coming on board as a client, something has to convince them to do that. And it's not your case studies. It's not your trust pilots. It's not any of those things that convinces them to buy from you. They're validators. They're things that justify why they should buy, but they're not the reason why they should buy. The reason why people buy is because they believe that you understand their problem, you understand the challenges of their business, you understand the goals and objectives they want to achieve, and they believe in your process, your product, your solution as a vehicle to get them there. So your product, your service is a vehicle, a tool, a mechanism to get the client from their current reality to a win scenario. And the more you understand those 2 worlds that the clients live in and want to live in, whether they're a multinational, a solopreneur, or a stay-at-home parent, doesn't matter. It's the same elements. There's a goal and there's a pain. They are the drivers for conversation, for inquiries, and wanting to know more. Those are the drivers. The trust pilots, the case studies, the awards, all of that stuff are reassurances that give people the confidence to make the decision. But they won't do it by themselves. And you telling people how amazing your company is, how amazing your brand is, will not do it. It will only be when you show people that you understand their pain and have a vehicle, a mechanism to get them to a goal or result that they value, will they make a decision to buy. So the content is part of the priming. Getting it in front of people, engaging with people. I'm going to show you a nice little thing about how the content and your prospecting tie together and anchor together to build a pipeline for the future and help you with your sales demands for the next quarter. So it's about now and the future. It's about the next quarter and the next year. So priming, the first element is content. Being prolific with content, even if you're a salesperson. And I could go into this for a long time, but some of the key things are, don't just promote your own business, don't promote the services, talk about the client's pains and challenges. Explain how you help fix particular problems. We have an acronym called TASTE. TASTE, which is all about the types of content that people will digest and eat from you, will feed on from you, that will educate them, nurture them, and help them understand why they need you. TASTE. The reason we call it TASTE as well is because on LinkedIn, whilst we love to do big long articles and big PDF white paper downloads, it's a social platform, which means it has to be bite-sized. It's a snack in between other things that people do in their day. It's not the main meal. And so you have to understand that when you're posting content, you have to land complex things quickly. Every post has to stand on its own 2 feet. You can't make suppositions that people will see every post. You know, it's really funny. One of the key things I get asked by people when I say to this, be prolific in posting, post every day. They say, is it not too much? Will people not get sick of us? No. Some people, a tiny, tiny, tiny minority of people may get annoyed at the fact that they see your post too often. Often those people are people who know you really well, so they can either suck it up or go away. But for your prospects, their LinkedIn activity is transient. They come in and out of the platform. They're not in there every day. They're not on it every day. And so you being consistent gives them more opportunities as they dip in and dip out to see you and be educated by you. So the vast majority of people will not see your posts every day. But being there and showing up every day allows more people generally to see it, but also allows the algorithm to know, Dean's showing up every day, there's something there, let's decide who sees it. So being consistent with posting makes a huge, huge difference. Just, depending on the industry, but just around 4% of all LinkedIn users post. 4%. More than 1 billion content views, I think it's 9 billion content views a month are happening on LinkedIn. It's probably higher now, the figure before the pandemic. More than 9 billion content views happen every month on LinkedIn. Do you think if you are consistently posting, do you think if you're consistently showing up on the platform and taking time, you will progressively over time, and I'm talking about weeks, not years here, gain a bigger slice of those views? Of course you will. And one of the things I want to say is, whilst LinkedIn's been around since 2003, as a social media platform, it's only been around a relatively short period of time, 5 or 6 years, that it's really been properly a social media platform with messaging and all that kind of stuff. So LinkedIn on the adoption curve is still relatively early in its growth and its development. Do you think it will be as easy to have an influential position on LinkedIn in 3 years' time? Do you think it's worth putting the effort in now to build something that actually doesn't get drowned out and is established for years to come? Do you think, given that there's only 4% on average across all the industries, people posting, that you could establish a position for yourself where your message is getting out there. And I've seen it. I've seen people who've not posted and then get consistent and average 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 views in as little as 3 months. They can do it. We teach it. We show people how to do it. We show people how to find their key message that gets prospects to say, I want to know more. That's all part of our training processes that we do in our accelerator, in our workshops for companies. So content is absolutely critical, even if you're a salesperson. Taste. So I mentioned taste earlier. Some types of content you can do. So number one, teach and educate. Teach and educate. In other words, what's the big ideas you can help explain? What's the big ideas you can help, the light bulb moments you can bring that help people understand their challenges, the opportunities ahead of them, and their goals, and the way you can deliver value for them. Teach and educate how you can deliver value. Actionable advice. What are some of the key things that you can share with people that will help improve their world that relates to your product or service, that relates to the way you could sell a service or product to them? What's some of the tips around it that would be helpful, valuable, and useful? Show people how you solve pain, how you solve their pain. Explain to them how you solve their pain. Explain how you've done, how you take companies from here to here. Explain how you help people grow their revenue in 90 days. Explain to people how you can leverage social selling to grow revenue. Show people and explain to people how you can solve their pain, how you can solve their challenges. Testimonials and examples. Share some examples of how you've helped people get from pain to outcome. Case studies, but make them very clear that people can see the pain of the client and the results you've delivered through your product or service. It's always about tying the pains and challenges, the outcomes, and the product or service together, and giving people that journey of going, okay, if I'm here and I want to get there, I need this. Making it very clear. And the final one, which everybody hates and everybody struggles with, is you've got to be yourself. You've got to put a bit of your personality in the way you communicate it. You can't write like you have no feelings. You can't write like it's a lecture. You have to communicate. You have to write posts and put content out that expresses your personality. One of the key ways to do this is remember that you're not writing an email when you're posting. You're not doing any of that. You're actually writing almost like a note to somebody that you kind of know. So it's more personal, it's more informal. The sentences are shorter because it's more like conversation than it is a written piece, even though you're writing it. So you need to have a more informal tone and get your personality across. Share some of your ideas and the way you feel about them. Use some language that gives people a flavor of who you are. Be careful though, don't stray too far. Remember LinkedIn, and this is what's scary about LinkedIn compared to other social platforms. When you're on there, it's not just you're on a social media platform and you can say what you want. You are on a business social media platform. More than any other channel, your conduct on LinkedIn has a direct impact on your career. So I would advise you, be yourself, informal, but be respectful of other people, even competitors. Be respectful of people of different views, and actually leave your politics and your views on life off of LinkedIn. It's not the place to advocate your beliefs or challenge somebody else's unless it's related to an industry problem or it's relevant to an industry issue. It's business with a bit of personal. It's not personal with a bit of business. So by all means, talk about things, share a bit about your life, but stay off contentious issues that are not related to business and the work that you do. You can quickly gain a very bad reputation if you decide to go on the rampage on LinkedIn. I know some people who love, I don't know why they do it, they love to go and attack other people on LinkedIn, and they have rants. But what it says to other people is, I'm not sure I'd want to do business with them. I'm not sure I'd want to involve them. I'm not sure I'd want to employ them. So keep it respectful, but showcase a bit of who you are. And if you're a grumpy person and all you do is complain, maybe think about changing who you are, because you can't just be like that. People buy from people. Even in job interviews, people buy from people. They buy into people by the vibe they get and the feeling they get. They look at their CV and their experience, but they also buy into the person. And so that's the same in sales. Same as in recruitment, same in sales. People buy into people. And so your profile says as much about the company as it does about you. So what is priming again? So this is just some examples of people who've worked on our priming stuff. So somebody who generated $1.5 million of business in the US did our project, and then Gavin, he launched his business in the end of 2019, and he went from zero, went on our training program and generated £8,000 worth of business. So we know what we're doing with this, and we teach it, we implement it, and you can implement it too. But engaging and warming the contacts. So this is the second part of priming. We've done the content. We're now into the second part, which is the prospecting and warming people up and getting people engaged. So we engage and warm contacts, get connected, and create some conversations. Build up those interactions. We know from doing this for a long time, it takes around 3 to 4 interactions with a prospect for them to even be responsive. We also know, by the way, and this will be an eye-opener for some salespeople, is that if you interact with a prospect today, if you don't have a frequency of interaction, they will forget you within a week. Now, the good news is if you've been hard pitching people as a salesperson, after about a month, you can start again, because all of that's by the by. But what it does mean is you have to build up a cadence of interaction so that the prospect doesn't forget you, and the prospect is nurtured, becomes familiar with you, gets to know you, remembers this face as part of the process. So you need to engage with the prospects. You need to be strategic in your messages to encourage prospects to reply and engage. Remember this, the goal of a message is not to land, to say something. The goal of a message is to get a reply. In our training course, which we're hosting on the 24th of November in London, but you can watch online, check out our website and Eventbrite for that. We actually teach about 3 DM strategies. There's actually 3 DM strategies you need to understand to deal with responsive, low response, and what we call zombie accounts on LinkedIn, and how you get them to reply to you and engage with you and interact with you. You can't just use one strategy for everybody, because there's different people at different levels of activity. And what's the point in sending a DM to somebody if they're not going to reply? That's the goal. And so we engage and warm them up to improve the replies. Remember, if I flick back, oh, where's it gone? Dean, you've tinkered with your presentation now. Remember, 1,004. What we're doing is improving these stages as we go, priming to improve the process. And so if we go 1,000, we get 4, if we do it automated and templatey and everything. But if we prime, we improve this number, this number, this number, this number, this number. And so to get 4 sales, you don't need 1,000 anymore. And if you do 1,000, you get a lot more than 4. That's what we're doing. That's what priming is. And it means that the relevancy of what you're doing is high. I bet most people would say, whatever the number is, let's say you could spend 2 hours per day on LinkedIn and get 4 opportunities, 4 proposals, let's say 2 hours a day, 4 proposals, and your proposal conversion rate is 50%. So you put in 4 proposals, 2 accepted every day. is that worth 2 hours? Most people will say hands down, yes. Yet, when you walk away from today, will you actually do that? Will you actually focus that time? Or will you just go, I want to find a way to do it without doing any work? Some of you might not like me, but it's true. Yeah, we like the idea of 2 hours to get 2 sales in a day, but we don't like the idea of doing the 2 hours. And then what we do is we don't want to do the 2 hours. So we're trying to improve this process. That's what we're trying to do. So instead of going from 1,000 to 4, we're increasing it. So let me get back to the priming. I'll come to that in a minute. And then we choose our approach thoughtfully so that it's relevant, meaningful, and targeted for the decision maker. We're making sure we choose the best path. And remember I said there's 3 strategies for a DM. There's 3 strategies to have a conversation with a prospect. If you've primed them, you want to choose the right one. Because if you choose the wrong one, the direct, the hybrid, and the cold, and I don't mean cold, I mean it's cold as in there's not a lot to deal with. So you've got the direct, the hybrid, and the warm. Let's call it warm because it is warm if you've primed. But the direct, the hybrid, and the warm. And they're 3 different ways of messaging. And depending on the responsivity from the priming, determines which one you do. So this is what we call our 7 steps. And there's an interesting bit to this 7 steps I want to share with you. And this is more about the LinkedIn algorithm. Now, don't get obsessed with the LinkedIn algorithm, because if you do your job, if you do what you're designed to do, it will follow you anyway. So we call this the 7 steps of social selling. Step 7 is where you actually start talking shop. Step 7 is where you start talking business. This process lasts about 10 to 14 days. 10 to 14 days. Some people, where they're a bit less active, it takes a bit longer. And some people who are really active, it's quicker. And basically we interact with the profiles before we connect. We interact again at the thank you stage, and we'd have 2 more interactions before we talk shop. Now, some of you diehard salespeople will say, I could do this in a day. The problem is doing it in a day, you're not really priming people, you're just being very intense. Priming people is about building up a patter, building up a visibility, and building up a relationship over a period of time, so that people see and warm to you and warm to your, or open up to you a little bit, because you've put some effort into prime them. So this process is easily implemented, takes a little bit of time, but it increases your connection acceptance to over 50%. You're building relationship from the beginning. And when you get onto that sales call, and when you get into that proposal, and when you get into that follow-up off the proposal, that's where the relationship becomes important. And if you build it from the beginning, you get an advantage further down the line. So build the relationships for the beginning. This process increases the responsivity and the engagement. And you don't need any automation and no cold hard pitches either. So it's a real organic process that can scale and is sustainable. So instead of having conversations like the ones I showed you before, they're very informal, very relaxed, and very relevant. So the key to using LinkedIn well is priming, not pitching. It's about getting your content out there and consistently showing your value, speaking to the pains, the taste. And just as an aside, by the way, if you want a copy of these slides or a copy of the replay tonight, you can have it. Just email us. We'll put an email on screen somewhere for you so that you can see it. There it is. If you want a copy of the slides, you can have them. The 7 steps, as I'm showing you here, is priming your prospects so you never have to cold pitch. You warm them up. You prime them for the future conversation. Now, if I'm doing a CEO of a major company, I might work on this longer. If I'm doing a small business owner, I might work on it shorter, but we know 3 to 4 interactions is where statistically beyond that 3 to 4 interactions, you're more likely to get the meeting. Most people will think about this in a different way. And what they'll do is go, I need to engage with people to get them to reply. So what they'll do is they'll send a sales pitch, and then when they don't reply, they'll send another one and a follow-up and a follow-up and a follow-up. Just trying to chase people to get their attention. If you prime people, they're responsive. So when you do send a message, they recognize the name. They go, oh, what's Dean asking about? What's Jack asking about? It makes it more relevant. And it means when we go back to that chart that I showed you earlier, that little, this one. What do you think happens if you invest the time in priming a prospect all the way down? What do you think happens here? What do you think happens from sharing content all the time? What do you think happens? Well, 2 things happen. Your content ripples out through the LinkedIn network, so more people see it. So today, if you post today, you might get 200 views, but if you're consistent, you'll start to learn what works. You'll start to learn, people seem interested in this, customers seem interested in that. You start to refine it, and it gets a bit further. And before you know it, a couple of weeks down the line, you're getting 2,000-3,000 views. That's 2,000-3,000 people viewing your content that are learning more about you, that are being educated, taste again. And so the content then becomes about getting beyond where you're at right now. So you're making a ripple effect across the platform of this is Dean, this is who he is, this is what he's about, and making it clear. And so the content's going before you, it's going ahead of you to actually get your message out there. From a salesperson point of view, it's actually creating your future pipeline. It's seeding the messages for the future. That Dean's familiar. I've seen him somewhere before. I've read one of his posts. Oh, I found that interesting. I've liked or I've commented. And so more people start to see you. More of your customers start to see you. But when you do the priming of the content and the 7 steps together, guess what happens? It gets really exciting. Because then as these prospects start to engage with you and you're engaging with them, LinkedIn's algorithm goes, wow, these people like each other. Let's make sure they see more of each other. Just like happens on Facebook, just like it's happened on all the other social platforms, as you interact with each other, as you engage with each other, they see you more. So do this as an experiment if you like. Come and connect with me on LinkedIn. Come find me on LinkedIn. Come connect with me and then engage with some of my posts, like a few of my posts. And what you'll find is that after a few days of doing that, after say a week or so of liking a couple of my things, when you open the LinkedIn app, guess who's there at the top? Me. Because you've engaged with me and I've engaged with you, or we've interacted in some way. So the algorithm goes, let's see each other. So imagine doing those 2 things together, posting content and engaging prospects in the 7 steps and doing those 2 things together. And so your content starts to get seen by the people that you're engaging with. And so the content's doing a bit of the work and your engagement's doing a bit of the work. It's massively powerful. Far more powerful than just putting 1,000 people in and hoping you get 4 out. So look, this is my training for tonight. I hope I've got you to think a little bit differently about how to sell through LinkedIn. And if you're interested in what we do and how we help people sell more on LinkedIn without being pushy, you want to unpack this in more detail, you want to make it more relevant to you with practical steps, and you want to understand how the DM strategy and the content can be built out quickly and implemented quickly, book a free call. There's no pitch on the call. I'm not going to pitch you hard, or we're not going to do any of that stuff. What we'll do is we'll unpack this a little bit more for free, because that's part of our mission to help businesses for free. And some of you will go, yeah, I really need the help. I really need more support. I want to catch this quickly. I want to avoid the mistakes and the pitfalls. I want to do it. And we'll give you a proposal for how we help people through our accelerator programs, through our workshops for salespeople. But if you see the opportunity of LinkedIn and you see how priming the 7 steps and content combined together can unlock more conversations and improve that 1,000 to 4, book your free session. Now, I'm sorry we didn't get much questions in. I know you've put some in the chat, and I know there's some in the chat, but do email us your questions and we'll come back to you tomorrow and actually share our feedback and share our answers so that you get the answers you need. We do these webinars for free for 2 reasons. One, we want to add value to people for LinkedIn. We want to show people that there is a route to LinkedIn. And some of you will get this and implement it and go on without us. And some of you will come back and need help, and we're here. One final request. I would love you to come find me on LinkedIn, give me some feedback on the presentation tonight, but also, you know, it takes a lot of effort from our team here to get this out, to put it out. So please do thumbs up at wherever you're watching, subscribe, follow, and tell other people about what we're doing, because we're doing it for free to help you sell more on LinkedIn. So thank you for watching. Remember, you can book a free call, but do all of that stuff. That would be awesome. And I'll see you next week when we're doing another session on content that converts, I believe. And the 26th, we're doing build your personal brand. Thanks for watching.
Last year, Maverick has helped generate more than 15 million in new business. The biggest reason for this is our 90-day training and implementation platform we call the ACCELERATOR program, where we teach your team to sell on social media with an implement-as-you-go strategy. It's not a pre-recorded course, it's hands-on sales training that develops and grows with you, with 90 days of real action that generates business and long-term revenue. So who is it for? This program is for entrepreneurs, marketing and sales professionals who want to sell without ads, cold calling or pushy tactics. A better way of selling with real steps to take which speeds up your sales process without burning any bridges. These are just a few examples of results our members have achieved using the ACCELERATOR. As you can see, the ACCELERATOR isn't about quick wins, it's about building a better sales process. If you'd like to learn more, just book a call with the Maverick team and we'll show you how the ACCELERATOR program can win you new business.